Is it not? And that is exactly what we're looking at. A talent that increases, but did you see how the parameters moved around? What if I told you your hammer was different? All right, what do you do when your hammer weighs differently and is balanced in an unusual fashion? What you do, get ready for the word, practice. It's beneath some of you to start over. Go back to the beginning. What did you do when you started the processes that you got good at, dear ones? Maybe the process you got good at was health. I want you to think about this. What did you do? You examined your diet. You examined the energy. You examined everything around you so that you could find a place that worked for you. Now you have this idea that whatever you found is going to be good forever. It just changed. Start it again. Find a new one. Those of you who are readers and psychics and all of those energy workers, if the frequency has changed, find a new frequency. How? Practice. Push on the door. Have patients come to you that are willing to practice with you. Do you remember when you did it the first time? Channelers. Do you remember the first time? I speak to my partner here. It was awful. Ask me. Horrible. Couldn't get through every other word, even less. Until he relaxed with it. The more he practiced, the better he got. Now this is second nature. He learned to step out of the way. He's not a puppet for Kryon. I'm using his higher self. You do know that, don't you? The consciousness of my partner, his voice, his intellect, his culture, his language, that's not Kryon, that's him. He is translating Kryon. We're working together. He steps aside in consciousness, but he's working through practice. You don't want to start over, do you? Let me tell you something. You don't have to. When you start pushing on the door and going back to the basics will graduate into fulfillment fast. You'll get the hang of it. You'll remember. You'll alter it a little and it expands. This is you adjusting to the new normal, enhancing what you had to something bigger, grander, and greater. Laughing at how the nails move around because you got a hammer that hits them every time. In fact, it becomes a game. The nails want to go into the wood, but they like to dance a little first. You see what I'm saying? It becomes a joyful experience, something that would be horrible to you right now to think about, because it was such an awful change for you. Things moving around, shifting energy, not being the same. What if you flew, you had the ability to flow with it so much it became a dance? Welcome to the new human. Higher consciousness and becoming quantum. This is what we want to teach you. This is what we want to tell you. Now, there would be those who would listen to this, and later they would say, I have no idea what Kryon said. Not really. You may have to listen to this a number of times. You may have to listen to this later in order to fully understand what we're saying. This may not apply to you yet. You may remember this channel and say, I better listen now because something's happening. Right now, together, I want you to see the magnificence of who you are. Potentials are reality. Is there illness here? I want to tell you, you have so much control over your own chemistry. It's listening to you. It wants to hear what you have to say. What are the affirmations you would say to your body Besides, I am healthy. Get specific. I am not in pain. I am never going to experience certain kinds of things again. I don't need to. There's no reason for them. You'll find you have more control over your body than you ever thought you had before, even over those things which medicine tells you you cannot do. My blood is clean. My blood is balanced. I'm telling you, you as a human being in this new energy, have more power in these words than you think. Affirmations? Yes. The energy caused from them, you've never seen anything like it. That's what the new energy is going to deliver. Starting over? Yes. But not to the same number of years to practice, just a little while. Go back to basics. Push. Stop waiting. It's time to act. Getting used to the new normal applies to many of you right now and some of you later. And of course, those who already figured it out. This is our message for the day. Sit with me for a minute, just a moment. You realize who you are. To receive this message, do you know who you are? Lemurian? He helped start the civilization that has the peace of God inside. Many of you are your own ancestors. You have been through this earth history. So many of you. It is not an accident as my partner moves around the globe that he speaks to only old souls. I want you to think about it. Do you deserve to be free of pain? Do you deserve to have all of the things back that you might have thought you lost? I am speaking to specific people listening to this now, specific family members that I know so well right now, and you know who I'm talking to. Affirmation. I am recovering, not good enough. Affirmation. I have recovered from my grief. Blessed is the Lord my God who lives inside of me. I just spoke to somebody who needed to hear that. Is it okay? I want you to prepare for mastery, for this is where it's going. All of you, at some level, at some time, in the lives to come and in this one, get ready for the new human being. And so it is.
Hi everybody, thanks for watching this. I wanted to tell you this is a little time sensitive. Hi everybody, thanks for watching this. I wanted to tell you this is a little time sensitive.
Greetings, dear ones. I am Kryon of Magnetic Service. My partner steps aside, as he must for a channel like this to be given. He knows what this is like and has done it many times. He's in a place, if you wish to call it that. And he is listening like you are listening. He has distractions, however, that are not the ones you have, and he's spoken of that before. He is not talking now. And again we say, that perception must be clean for you to cognize what is being said. I speak of things that are beyond his knowledge. And I talk about the real energy of this planet that is physical right now. We have spoken of physics many times. We're not going to today. But we're going to talk about physical, three-dimensional things that are affecting you through an interdimensional source that is changing that which you know. We have said now for years that this change was coming. The prophecies have been clear in their own vague way that the consciousness of the planet itself was going to shift. That the planet would become softer. And that things unexpected would happen. We even told you there's a wild card coming. And that you're going to get more of them. And they may feature things, inventions you didn't expect, actions you didn't expect, benevolence you didn't expect. Softer energy is coming to you. And that is very sweet. And many have said, that's a good prediction, a wonderful prophecy. I want to tell you what's really happening. I want to give you the ABCs of it, as you say. I want to give you the physicalness and the reality of what's going on. Some of this will appear to you as a review, but it isn't. It's a consolidation of many little pieces that I've given you before to show you what is going on today. The subject is DNA. DNA is not simply a chemical molecule in your body. It is a multi-dimensional piece of divinity. The very molecule that you call DNA is all over the galaxy, dear ones. It is life. It is the way life forms. It is the patterning. It is the geometry of life everywhere. And you're going to see this. Well understood by many, not so well by some. And it's changing. It can only change through physics. You are not receiving any chemical changes from the universe. It's all through physics. I'll review 26 years ago when I came in. I told my partner to write in his first book, and he did, that the magnetic grid of the earth is shifting. And it did. It had to. Because the magnetic grid of the planet is related to, intertwined with, the physics of human consciousness. As goes the grid, goes human consciousness. And it has been approximately the same through your lifetimes. And now it moves a lot. It moved so that it could be positioned to receive something that is now receiving. Think of it as moving the furniture so that you can better view something you didn't know was viewable. And so you're reposturing the grid for something coming to it that it's going to end up being called an evolutionary energy. And it's physical. It's really physical. Months ago and years before that, we told you that your planet is going into a place, if you want to call it that, in space that it never has been in before. This is not esoteric. Ask an astronomer. Is the solar system coming out of a protective bubble into a new kind of radiation or energy or whatever you can call it that you haven't seen before? Is it possible that your solar system is losing a protective sheath that it's always had because of where it was? I want you to understand your solar system has always been on the move. It rotates around the center of the galaxy. You're always in a new period of time and space, constantly. But all of the lifetimes on this planet you've had have been in one energy And now it changes. And now it changes. Physically, what is it doing? The new energy is affecting your sun. Because this energy is designed to do that. Dear ones, what if I told you this energy was always here waiting for you to pass the marker? This is an evolutionary energy that's going to affect your sun, the heliosphere of your sun, which then passes to the magnetic field of the earth, which has now been repostured for new consciousness. Oh, there are those who intellectually will say, well, what if we had destroyed ourselves? What if there was no humans to receive this? It's simple. Nothing would have happened. But the area of space was still there. And the same energies would have been there. And you would not have been. Simple. But you are. And so the prophecy itself from the indigenous is being fulfilled a great deal by the new energy that are in space. They affect your sun. The heliosphere of your sun changes. Now the sun had to be quiet for this. I want you to ask an astronomer about the sun and the cycles of the sun. And I want you to ask the astronomer, what period of radiance is the sun in at the moment? And the astronomer will say, well, it appears to be one of the quietest times the sun has ever seen. Solar flares and sunspots are disturbances in the multidimensional field that surrounds the heliosphere of the sun. We wanted it as quiet as possible, and this was timed for that. The sun is quiet. It's affecting your weather. We told you that. Due to its quietness, you're in a cycle of weather that we also predicted that has a lot to do with the energy that's coming. That's physical. Ask an astronomer. They're worried about it, some of them. Others are not. It is affecting you. Now you know why the magnetic grid was changed, when it was changed, and why. That's physical. Now, a bit more esoteric. At the same time this is happening, we gave you the information of the nodes and the nulls. Is it possible that the Pleiadians themselves, having been there at the beginning and knowing about this change, this marker, the ones that actually helped with the prophecies, they actually were the ones that influenced the Mayan calendar, of course, through intuition, would know about this time. The nodes and the nulls are fast-track engines that are affecting the grids of the planet. Consciousness. The grids of the planet affect consciousness. Crystalline, remembrance, magnetic consciousness that is soft or hard. The Gaia grids, all of them are being tempered, fast-tracked, fed, if you want to say, by the nodes and the nulls. This is information, if you haven't heard about it before, is easy to find. I want you to look at the confluence of energies that are shifting and changing that directly affect one thing, your DNA. The DNA of the human being is ready to shift and change. You'll never see it in a microscope because it's not chemical. It's physics. The 90% of DNA that heretofore was junk, and now you understand it's not, has within it information that is multidimensional and is ready to receive information from the sources I just gave you. Like antennas in your body, the DNA is going to receive and shift, and it's going to affect genetics. Mothers receive it first, pass it to your children. Mothers, you don't even know you got it. And you're passing it to your kids. There is what you would call perhaps an agreement in biology that it would be passed in a new way to the newborns. And the newborns are the ones that would then wake up with the change. And they are. I'm going to talk about Genesis cells in a moment because this is important that you know what they are. And it will be perhaps new information or maybe not. It's a Kryon term, not a medical term. There may be medical terms similar. This is different. The baby comes into the planet, and what is going on is you're in a new place in space. You have the nodes and the nulls feeding into the grid new information, and the paradigm of consciousness is different for them than for you. Things start working better. Intuitive self, the barrier between innate and consciousness. All of these things start to improve. The barrier starts to become less. Be ready for children that have intuition about what's wrong with them. And if they tell you something's wrong, take them to the doctor. Don't tell them it's your imagination, honey, or it'll be okay later. Do you hear that? There are those listening to this right now who need to hear that because their children are looking at them and saying this. I feel funny. Something's wrong. Moms for years used to raising children are used to a paradigm in the old energy. And the paradigm has a certain kind of health template. It's changed. The kids are waking up to being intuitive about their own health. The bridge isn't built yet to innate, but it is close, and they're feeling something, and innate is talking to them for the first time. You didn't get it. They do. Listen to them. The Akash of the child is starting to become clearer. These children are going to tell you so many things about who they've been and what they've done. Church, get ready for it. If you're a parent and you're listening to this now, the worst thing you can do is suppress it. The best thing you can do is to tell the child the absolute truth. The absolute truth. I believe you. There are those who won't. Let's make an agreement when you say it out loud and when you don't. That's truthful. And the child will get it. The child will get it. And it won't disturb things that you don't want disturbed. And the child will know it because it has an ally called a parent who believes it 100%. These are instructions for kids in the new age. It's going to get even stronger. The children they have will surprise them on how much better certain things work. Now that's a newborn child. Instinct is going to work better than it ever has. Now, instinct is not something that you're used to seeing in humans. You see it in animals. Because the offspring of animals, for survival, have an instinct that is passed so well, they can walk within hours of birth. You don't have that. Instinct is starting to become part of that which is Akash. It is chemical as well as being esoteric, as is in animals. You ought to have it, and you will. You're going to see children remembering how to walk and how to eat faster. Faster than they should have. Faster than the doctors that know about child development will give you. It's off the scale. Get ready for it. It's instinct. It's simple chemistry, but it's working better. just like in the animal kingdom. Children will come in remembering what their parents know, what their parents are able to do, what a human being is able to do, walk and talk, and eat properly. As it is now, every mother in the room knows you start from scratch, nothing, zero, every time a child is born. And that is changing. If you look at the individual cell and DNA itself, if you could say what is happening, it is becoming enabled. Now you're using a funny word, and it's a buzzword in esoteric, and it's called activation. Don't change it, it's fine. But it actually is not accurate. You are releasing DNA from a prison. If you have somebody who is crippled in a chair, now this is going to mean something to those of you who are here, not to those who are listening later, because there's been an example on the screen. A cripple in a chair, shriveled, not able to move. And suddenly they are released slowly from this, and the fingers untangle. The hand starts to become whole again. They start to move and wiggle because of something that's happened to the DNA. Not to the hand, not to the muscles, not to the fingers, not even to the arm, to the DNA. It's a release. I want you to hold this vision. Released from a prison of being crippled. Your DNA is crippled. And it's your free choice of where you wanted to take the energy of this planet, and your DNA cooperated. That is what you've lived with, and that's what's changing. It's not DNA activation, it's DNA release. Release. Look at that. In the paradigm, in your visualization, you're releasing what has been held back. And you're asking how? Do you realize the help that you have? Did you think for a moment that all of this was going to be you just doing things? It involves the galaxy, the part of space you're in, the nodes and the nulls, the creator of the universe. It involves the Pleiadians. It involves your timeline. All of this for you to sit in a new energy and release the DNA. Dear ones, I want to tell you, old souls, there's something you ought to know. You don't have to wait for this. The old soul has the equipment inside right now, just like the newborn. Now, I want you to follow this. We've not talked about this in this way before. Your DNA is filled with information and templates. Now, we are calling them templates, which are patterns and paradigms of life. And they are templates which you have only received partially. Now, what you don't know about a template, it has what we would call patterning of its own. If you have a portion of a template already, that is to say, a piece of the design, it draws to itself the rest of the design if it could get it. Did you understand that? If you have a piece of the picture, that piece has an attitude. An attitude of desire and wanting the rest of the picture. As soon as it's possible to get that, it's like magnetics. It literally flies to itself, and the template snaps into place, and you get the whole thing. All of you have pieces of the template. And all of those pieces in an old soul are ready to attach themselves, literally calling the names of the rest of the template to come forward. And in this new energy, that is what you can do. You are going to then complete the templates that are missing. Old soul. One of the templates that never goes away is part of a manual. Think of it this way. Although it's not linear, I want you to think of the manual of birth. When you came in, what was the manual like? What page were you on when you were 5 days old? What page were you on at 6 months? What page were you on when you were 30? And you all know that all the pages are different because of the chronology of growing up. The pages are still there. The template is still there for what I call Genesis cells. Genesis cells, as I will define them, are the cells of a newborn which accelerate growth and learning. All the antennas are 10 times as long as they are for you now. The child absorbs the world in 6 months, learns everything in 6 months. Speech, walking, all of the things. Its antennas are so big, listening to the attitudes and the consciousness of every single parent in the room. You know that. It's different for a kid than it is now. And then that slows down. And then you have the adult. Genesis cells, they're still there. The template is still there. The instruction sets for how they're made, if you want to call it that, are still there. By the way, it's all physics. Now, old soul, these cells are available for you now. Just go get them in the book. You do it with affirmations, you do it with consciousness, you do it with meditation. However you communicate with innate, it's ready to activate the Genesis cells. And what that means to you is fast-track growth to enlightenment. To any situation you have, whether it's healing, whether it's teaching, whether it's talent, can you imagine right now, whatever age you are, 10 times? Genesis cells are ready for the old soul. I keep saying old soul. Did you notice? You've got to have graduated. In other words, a number of lifetimes gives you the template information that a newbie would not have that's been on the earth 4 or 5 times. You've got to have 100 lifetimes, maybe 1,000, to develop experience, to recognize what's going on. Every one of you in this room can say to yourself, I know that I've been here before. You know too much. You feel too much. You're in this room. You wouldn't be otherwise. That's been stated. It's accurate and it's true. You're an old soul. Everything I just told you is about the enhancement of the human being in an energy that if you were alert, you would have expected. What does an enhanced old soul look like? And the answer is compassion. I close with this. The secret to mining your Akash is having a compassionate consciousness. Does that surprise you? That's what has been missing all along. If you're going to mine your Akash, that is to be in touch with who you were and start rewriting who you are, you're going to have to come to an agreement of compassion with yourself. Lack of anger. Care for others. Purity of God inside. Now, I've never said that before. That's physics. The physics of consciousness to create compassion creates what I call compassionate action. Then you can start mining your Akash. It's for everyone in the room. An old soul knows how to do this. Those listening, I know who you are. You wouldn't be listening unless you were an old soul. Even an uninterested old soul. You are one. You know you are. Compassion is the king of all descriptions of emotion at this point on the planet. It's going to lead you into an evolved state, and without compassion and caring for others, it is not going to work. In fact, nothing will work. Very slowly. There's going to be a split, and we talked to you about it before, those who are compassionate and those who are not. And it's going to be obvious. Obvious. Caring or uncaring. State of mind. That's the split to come. Don't worry about it, compassionate one. When you take the attributes of the Master, light surrounds you. No more fortressing. Some of you know what that is. No more catching the diseases of the day. They won't be able to touch you with compassion. It's physics. It's real. It's physical. And it's happening now. Your society will reflect this sooner than you think. And you turn on your news and you think I'm crazy. Just wait. There's some wild cards coming. Benevolent in a new energy. I'm crying in love with humanity. And so it is.
Hi everybody, thanks for watching this. I wanted to tell you this is a little time sensitive. Hi everybody, thanks for watching this. I wanted to tell you this is a little time sensitive.
Greetings, dear ones. I'm Kryon of Magnetic Service. Occasionally there are channels where their information is secondary. And what is primary? Is the message of love. I want to give you some information, but always couched in appropriateness and belief. I'll say it again. This message is real to you. The man in the stool, he must step aside to such a degree that a stream of consciousness comes to him using his own intellect, language, body, voice, to deliver a message that is not his. The school that is next door teaches this. The key to channeling is letting go. And so this is a message from my partner, letting go, but the message is from me. And the me I speak of is the energy from that which you would call the creative source. Some say it would be angelic information. Dear ones, you can call it what you wish. But the sacredness is a handshake with you. If you feel an affinity to the voice, to me, to the message, it's because we're connected. There are different kinds of connections that we are only just beginning to let you know about. The last time we channeled in another city, we opened a door that we have opened before regarding a subject. And the subject may seem to you a bit too scientific. But dear ones, it isn't about science. We speak of physics. But dear ones, physics is the reality you sit in. It's not the study of physics. It's the reality of the way things work. The creative source, God, the I Am, is the great physicist. The creative source is that which made the planet, the way things work. Literally laid the groundwork for all the rules that you would call physics. And we said it the last time, and we want to say it again, and we'll say it after this. If you, with a high consciousness, decided to build physics, to create a reality, the reality that would have rules about it and the way things worked, wouldn't you be tempted to stir a little love in there? Dear ones, this was what has happened. Now, human beings have free choice. They can ignore all of this, and there is no judgment if they do. The door opens when you ask it to, metaphorically, to reveal things to you which will enhance your life. You can go all of your life without seeing the door, and we've told you this. Without opening, we've told you this. Without even being aware there is one. And you can come through an entire lifetime and come back, and we get the same party as the healer, as the channeler. It's about the expression of life on the planet. It's not what you do. This is outside of what you've been told and what you've been taught, for you are action-driven. Humanity judges you by who you are and what you've done, and God judges you not at all. You are a piece of the creative source. You are family. And you are here doing a job. And the job is this: can you live on this planet, be exposed to the things you are with free choice, and realize that God is inside? And if you can you then go to the next step, which is to surrender to that energy to the extent where you say, I want to take your hand, I want to see what I'm missing. And what I've told you before, dear ones, is that when you do this, you're only going to get benevolent results. There's no fire walk for you. There's no suffering for you. There's nothing supposedly that you then must do. The things that Spirit will give you will be in the way of you then desiring to do them. In fact, you may even think it's your own intuition. It'll be your higher self. And you start to see yourself change. And you realize that nobody has pushed you there. That you have had that intuition that'll take you where you need to go. There is a system of love in physics. It's hiding. Now, a review of the last channel from the last city. I gave it a name. The field. And we told you that this is physics with an attitude. Only the attitude is benevolence. Could it be that there is a reality that is benevolent to everything that touches it? Could it be that there is a reality, which we call the field, that tries to unite and synchronize everything that it comes in contact with? And the answer is, oh yes. Science has actually seen this and given it a name, which is incorrect, which is called entrainment. We speak of the field in a grander way. It really is entanglement with benevolence and the creative source. And it's responsible for a lot. If you use your logic in everyday life, sometimes you have to stop and say, Why do the things happen the way they do? When you talk about the love of God, the benevolence of God, you might say that's beautiful, but what is it really? What's the essence of what pushes me or you, my partner, to benevolent outcomes? Kryon is here with my partner because he asked for it. Dear ones, all he had to do was open the door and say yes. He didn't have to drag me into his life. Because there's something called the field. I want you to think of the field as something that's always around you all the time. It winks at you and smiles at you because it's benevolent and wishes to push or pull you when you say yes. If I told you there was a train that you could get on, and that train would take you someplace, the first question you would ask is, how do I get on it? The next question, as you sat there on it, you might say, and when will it take me there? And what do I have to do to start the engine of the train? And then the train moves by itself. And then you have to ask, what is it that causes the train to move? Now, this is a metaphor, but dear ones, it's everywhere. I'm going to give you answers to questions you never asked. I would like to expose something you've never even thought of. Why does Mother Nature work? Mother Nature has been explained and defined as a finite system, like a beautiful clockwork of life and Gaia, of energy, of light and dark, of all the elements that come together perfectly. An untouched environment will be balanced. And that balance you can see with the plants and the animals, the oxygen, the carbon dioxide, the waters, the circle and cycle of life, the insects. And you have to stand back. And the comment that you would make is, isn't Mother Nature wonderful? And then you'll walk away. How can you do that without asking, what is it? Do you just assume that balance happens normally, by itself, without any kind of system? Do you think that balance is random? And this planet just happened to fall into a sweet spot of randomness and be perfect? Some way, somewhere, somehow, someone is going to ask, where does the balancing property come from? Who balances it? It's too perfect. Humanity begins to understand the reality of this balance. Did you know even that the oceans of this planet have the ability to clean themselves up from oil spills? Were you not aware that before humans ever got here, there were oil spills? Immense oil spills. Oil bubbles up from the bottom of the sea. That's where they find it today. And all by itself, millions of gallons bubble up, cover the ocean, and go away. Bioremediation. Did you know that that was balanced as well? Humans probably haven't even thought of that. Because when you have an oil spill, it's a catastrophe. You give almost no credibility whatsoever for natural remediation, or even the existence of it. It's almost like you invented oil. Dear ones, there's many of these kinds of things. What happens when an environmentalist decides to change the balance of an area for economic reasons? First, an environmentalist probably wouldn't do that, unless, of course, they worked for the government. If you change one thing, it throws everything else out of balance, and you see it immediately. You see the one thing reacting to this, and therefore it affects something else, and that perfect balance goes away. And then the human will realize the mistake and try to correct it by rebalancing it, and it never works. You have to ask the question, what is it? What is it that makes a perfect balance? And now I will tell you, Mother Nature is not random. Mother Nature is the name for the field. The field, again, is an physics that wants and demands synchronous action of harmony and balance. And things that are left alone are not random, dear ones. They come into a balance. They come into a synchronization of purpose. And Mother Nature is the best example I can give you. It's everywhere. I tell you this because this field, as I said last week, is growing in strength and attitude. The field will try its best to cooperate with the human being's desire for harmony. This is a new tool on the planet. It means that it's more than just opening the door to awareness. The door will now fly open. And you will be aware of things quicker than you ever were before. Because the field will actually push itself because you ask. Imagine an energy of benevolence that all it wants to do is create harmony wherever you walk. And here it goes. Can you use the field? Dear ones, not only can you use it, it can be your life. Today, my partner spoke of the attributes of homeopathy. The unusual way that it works. A remedy, a tincture, is far too small to cause any kind of chemical reaction. Biologists know this. Chemists know this. And yet just the presence of a few parts per million of a remedy under the tongue of a human being will create cure. How? If you want to get to the minutia of it, you'll say, well, it's the innate. And that's what my partner told you today, and he's right. The smart body sees it. It doesn't see it as a desire or a wish. It sees it as your instructions for reality. Your instructions for reality. And then the body acts upon it naturally. Now stop right there. Why? Can you name a physical process that would take the tincture and create a cure? And it's called the field. Because physics is present in chemistry. It's everywhere. Did you ever put this together? Or did you just think that the smart body did smart things and leave it at that? There has to be an underlying process for all things in order for you to connect the dots. It's like a fine Swiss clock. You're happy watching the hands go around. And you turn it over and you can see some gears moving. but you really don't know how they work. And now I'm telling you how they work. A tincture, a remedy, when placed into the human body, is exposed not just to the smart body or the innate, but the field. Because it has consciousness of effect. You have got the remedy in your hand. That is the consciousness that says, I am willing to give my body a reality. At that point in time, the message is clear. You put it under your tongue for fast assimilation into the bloodstream. That is an actionable item. It carries a compassion action for you and your body. You have just given a positive action symbol, and the field does the rest. It wants to create harmony with the chemistry. It talks to that which you call the innate. It moves to create cures in the body, sometimes even that which you call spontaneous remission is you connected to the field. Imagine regular physics all around you, and all it wants to do is bring synchronous things in harmony with one another. And what's the most synchronous thing you could have in your body? And it's called health. 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 I just gave you the secret of why homeopathy works. There has to be another force. Don't you see that? It's not just magic. It's not just the chemistry of your body in a random way, seeing something and acting. There has to be a driving force. And that's it. The physics of love, some of you may say. It's been hiding all along, but it's in plain sight. We've told you over and over that consciousness is physics. If it is, and if actual thought groups and intent carry energy of intent, it makes thinking an actionable item. It means that which you do and think and project has positive energy for your body. So, we talked about affirmations last time. Let's talk about action this time. I want to call this channel the celebration channel, because the celebrating of who you are is extremely actionable. Dear ones, I'm going to give you something I've never given you before. Not an affirmation, but a matching attitude for the field. If you want to marry to the field, you're going to celebrate who you are. In celebration, there comes many attributes. Picture a celebration. What are you doing? A celebration. What are you doing? Are you dancing? You get together and celebrate something beautiful and wonderful. You sing. There's music. There's laughter. There's joy. There's dancing. There's smiles all around. Pure celebration. All of those attributes together create a confluence of energy just by the word celebrate. If you celebrate your life, you're going to create something with the field. And the hardest thing to do is just that. In order to celebrate your life and see it as a real, healthy, ongoing, compassionate human, you're going to have to come into this new energy as the new human without fear. You might say, well, Kryon, I'm not afraid. If you want to take fear apart, yes, you are. Because part of fear is what you've been taught that lays underneath that which you can feel. The things that you might be afraid of doing, that's a feeling perhaps, but it's fear. The things that you would say, well, that's not me, I don't want to do it. What are you afraid of? And the underlying one, the lack of self-worth that says, I don't deserve it, that's a fear of going forward and deserving it. You see that? You're going to have to wipe away all of that in order to have a pure celebration and connect to the field. But when you do, if you can, over time perhaps as the layers peel away of resistance, when you finally start to connect and you celebrate who you are, there are the words I am that come to mind. And you start to realize the connection you have with all things. And you sit there and you start to celebrate that who you are. Healthy, alive, living, joyful, smiling, and dancing. The celebration is that you are part of the cosmos itself. The celebration is that you belong on the planet. You belong here. No matter what anybody has ever told you about who you are or why you exist. You have to drop all the biases of what anybody has ever said. Anybody. What did your parents teach you? You're going to have to rewrite it. And in the process of rewriting it, what you do is you'll have to deal with the fact that you are going against what they told you. Because they didn't have it complete. Not in an old energy. Not really. You may love your parents, respect them, cherish them. Can you imagine then going against what they said? It's all part of how you think and who you are. You start to peel it away. There are tricks in this, and the tricks are how you conceive it and how you work it. You can envision your parents in front of you, and you can say, you didn't get it wrong, you just didn't know. There's something you should know. Then you inform your parents, metaphysically, metaphorically, in your own mind. You share your discoveries with those who told you one thing that's not exactly the way it is. You may say it's a mind trick, but everything is, dear ones, you must convince yourself of your own reality. It is you controlling you. It is what is taught at the highest level for a human being to have absolute control over their own being, over their own thinking process, over their own emotions, without input and influence from anyone. But what are you going to do with this? I've just given you something that's very old. Some of those who started spiritual belief systems on this planet sat for years wiping away everything and getting in touch. This is not that new. But what is new is the energy of cooperation. For the field is alive and well. I want you to imagine billions of little hands waiting to take you on a benevolent, harmonious trip into the place you've asked to be. But those little hands will have to get through the layers of guilt, of doubt, of lack of self-worth that only comes from what you have been told. So it's time to turn the switch and say, I know what I was taught, but I'm going to clear the boards and think for myself what's out there. What is really out there? And that is the trick. Imagine if it were true, and it is, what we are telling you today. We're going to talk more about the field. but it's so prevalent everywhere. In physics, my partner even mentioned that which you call evolution, and how the experts are now seeing that evolution was way too fast to be normal. They're right. Welcome to the field. Pushing it forward at an unbelievable speed that is not random. That's the field. It's been with you forever. It's helped create the humans that you see here that are ready to go into an ascension status on this planet in the new energy. The higher you get in consciousness, the greater the field will cooperate. This is a quantum secret that the Pleiadians knew, that those who seeded you knew, that the higher the consciousness gets on a planet, the more cooperative it becomes with itself. That as you become more entangled with an elegance of thinking, the greater the ideas are that will come forward, because the field is pushing them in a harmonious way, synchronizing them together and handing them to you because of your higher thought. That you didn't know. It's not a linear struggle as it has been. It's something that's coming, that's beyond anything that you really expected. Imagine, the more you help yourself, the more help you get from the field. I sit today in the temple of wisdom because these are wise things. They're new things, and they're for you. These are advanced, for you live in a world that is recalibrating with many things that hurt your heart, as we told you there would be. You sit in a world where many are learning there's no more fence sitting. You can't be on the fence with these kinds of things anymore. You're either compassionate or you're not. You're either willing to go to these esoteric thoughts or you're not. And you can't then ride the fence and speak one way to one person and another to another. You'll be torn off the fence completely. You have to be in one camp or another. This is the new energy, especially for an old soul. So watch for these kinds of things in this energy. But I just gave you the future. It's the field. That's enough for now. And so it is we give you these things so that you may know them. And you will cognize them at your own pace. You will discern whether this message is accurate or comes from a human. You will feel the energy or you won't. And that is the free choice that is always yours. To take whatever is given to you and assimilate it or not. But dear ones, let me tell you something. You can't assimilate part of it. It's either all of it or it's none. And so it is.
Hi everybody, thanks for watching this. I wanted to tell you this is a little time sensitive. Hi everybody, thanks for watching this. I wanted to tell you this is a little time sensitive.
Greetings, dear ones. I'm Kryon of Magnetic Service. It may sound cryptic, but as it is above, so it is below. And the fractals of time are the same, no matter what the time is. And the patterns of the large are the patterns of the small. And in that there is a secret. And the biggest secret of all, when it comes to these kinds of statements, is what is being discovered within human consciousness. For human consciousness is a player in the physics of everything. It cannot be discounted. It must be in the laws of physics, and it will be. For it is the catalyst that often can change that which we say is the relationship between the parts. All cryptic right now for you. I want to give you some history. And the history is of astronomy and physics. In order to point out something that is extremely real, that can come right home to your own body. It's fascinating for some. It's science. It's real. An astronomer, a female astronomer named Vera Rubin, made a discovery many years ago. And she looked at the Andromeda galaxy, very similar to your own, and studied it for years slowly. And something occurred, a discovery, amazing. She discovered that all of the stars went around the center of that galaxy at the same identical speed. Now that is not what happens in your solar system. In fact, it flies in the face of Newtonian science or Kepler. All of the things that you base the motion of matter on was wrong. And when she discovered it, she handed it over to the community. And they studied it to confirm and validate she was right. Now here's where it gets fun. For in physics and astronomy, what you've had for decades and decades are rules of physics that you watched happen over and over. You used them to fly to the stars, to the asteroids, to the moon, all of the mathematics that you used based on Newton, based on Kepler. And then you look at another galaxy and realize it's just like yours, something you could not measure because you're within it. She saw in a faraway galaxy, not too far, very close actually to you. And so what they did with this information is to say they have discovered a piece and a part of Newtonian science they never knew. Now look at what they've done. They've taken what they know and have altered it to fit the rules of what they see. And that became the invention of dark matter. There had to be something that they didn't see which was altering what they know to be, which is Newtonian and Kepler science. The invention of dark matter, therefore, became something, an invention, because they didn't know what they didn't know. Vera, in the last 10 years of her life, started to object. Here, she was the one who exposed this wonderful idea of dark matter. And yet she started to object. She separated herself from the males. And she started to proclaim what she believes she discovered was new physics. Something that had never been seen before. So don't alter what you know. Go to what you don't know. take a look at something that never was revealed before, a relationship between the parts of the center of a galaxy doing something that would literally entangle all the stars together so they rotate like a plate, all the same speed relatively. To this day, no one has listened to that. But she knew before she passed over that she had discovered something that nobody knew about yet. Something new that was the relationship between the parts of a galaxy. As above, so below. For that relationship, dear ones, goes right to atomic structure. Physics is physics. Big physics and little physics echo one another. They're fractals of themselves. And you don't get something completely and totally different simply because it's large. And in between this huge and small, in between the rules of the fractals, is the human being. And in the human being, I will say yet again, the secret to everything you want. And what I mean by want, that would be longer life, health, peace, balance, joy, benevolence, all of these things. The secret is the relationship between the parts. And now you have to start looking at one of the parts you never thought was a part. Define consciousness. What is it? I will give you a non-technical definition of consciousness. The consciousness of a human being is what comes out of your mouth. High or low? It's in the expectations of everyday verbiage and language, everyday thoughts. Whether you expect the worst, whether you complain, whether you're not happy with things, or you're never happy with things, or whether you look at the world differently and you see that which is benevolent because you can have peace in understanding a bigger picture. When somebody stands in front of you and calls you names, there may be obscenities. You look at them and you say, I see the God in you. I'm sorry you're having a bad day. And that's the truth. That is the truth. That is a basic, beautiful, sacred truth. They have the same peace of God you do. And by choice, they have chosen a consciousness which is difficult. Difficult for you to see and for them to be in. And when you look at it, the relationship of the parts between your soul and their soul can intertwine for a moment. And in a way, they can feel that which you send to them, which is love, understanding, benevolence, in the process of them gesticulating and calling you names. And that, my dear friends, is spiritual maturity and balance and understanding. That's what you strive for. The relationship between the parts is the secret for long life, and the parts are between consciousness and the soul. It is the extension of the channel last night. But it's more than that. This coherence that you talk about is very real. It's a harmony that is beyond that which is on paper or on the screen or numbers. It's a harmony that is felt and owned. You own it. And it's not just for a moment. Mothers, you've all felt it. Definition of pure coherence. Mom looking into that infant's eyes at birth. Comes out of you. Opens its eyes given to you, and you look upon the face of lineage, of you. And for a moment, there is 100% coherence between you and your child, the soul that has just come out of you. Is it possible to duplicate that? Dear ones, that is exactly what we want you to duplicate. Could you develop perhaps an exercise? I don't want you to try to look in the mirror and open your eyes and do this. That won't work. That doesn't work. It's too linear. Way too linear. Instead, perhaps you could look inside yourself and see the child that was there. For all of you were there. And in that moment, I want you to see your soul, which is old and has infinite wisdom as part of the creative source, looking at you for the first time in that human body. And feel the coherence between being fresh, new, young, just here, and the soul which is old, that is also you. And the relationship for the parts for that moment is beautiful, compassionate, coherent, joyful, laughing. Welcome back. Here we are again. Let's go do it. And if you can imagine such a thing, from the depths of that which is your compassion, desire, and wisdom for balance, you will invoke the inner child within, and you'll start a coherence with yourself. You'll be able to love yourself clearly, because all you'll see is that new and fresh you. The soul does not age. Only the body ages. The soul does not. And so the freshness that was there is still there. Regardless of what has happened in your life. Regardless. It doesn't matter. You can go to that place of freshness and newness and compassion and love and rekindle it. This is how a human being begins to love themselves. There has to be a recalibration of some sort beyond just that of wanting it or talking about it or verbalizing it. You got to own it. And it's there as a resource to be owned. Imagine if you could rewind the clock just for a moment to that moment of birth. Not when you looked into the eyes of your mother, but when you looked into the eyes of your own soul. An ancient, wise old soul. And for an instant you looked at one another and there was full, total coherence, joy, compassion, benevolence. You recognized each other. Here you are again. In a new biological body, ready to start anew. And there is that which would recognize one with the other, and the relationship between the parts is perfect. What's different now? Age? Things that have happened? What's different now? Are you starting to react perhaps to that which is around you? It's made you angry? Are you frustrated? Do you have anxiety over what you cannot control? Do you realize that all of those things are your choice? That's the consciousness of free choice. And in that free choice, you have that which is possible to do whatever you want with it. Totally in control. And in that, you can change what comes out of your mouth. You can change that which you think. You can start to exercise the muscle of compassion and benevolence And when you do, dear ones, it starts to create a coherence with that which is your soul. Some say it's your heart, that ancient part of you which knows all. And that's then what creates the peace. That's then what slows the chemistry of aging. That's what keeps the diseases from attaching themselves to you. It goes way beyond that which is your brain. Consciousness is not necessarily something that is generated from the brain alone. It comes from that which is the relationship between the parts of the human being. That which you think, that which you've been told, that which is in the synapse, and that which is in your heart. How do things work? How have you been told they work? Do they have to be forced? Do they work with complaining? And the answer is no. And you know better, and you know that. And yet the habits are there, are they not? Back to the message of last night, but beyond it, way beyond it. If the secrets of physics, all physics, is the relationship to the parts, one with another, then the secrets to all that you wish in a DNA that can be mastery is the relationship to the parts. What you think and who you are. The ancient part of you, which is the soul, the current part of you, which is the consciousness of the human who you are. The closer together they become, the more you train that which is in the pineal and the heart and the brain to be closer to the ancient benevolence of the soul. The closer they get, the more perfect the coherence becomes. And in that coherence is magic. That's what allows you to live hundreds of years. There'll come a day when coherence, or something they call coherence, is taught from birth. And in that, there is the cognization, the belief, the understanding that consciousness is a player on the field of physics. The secret to humanity that will not war is coherence. The secret to humanity without disease is coherence. Coherence between the parts of the human being. A balance between that which is emotional, intellectual. A balance between that which is very esoteric, called the soul, and very linear, called the brain. And when that balance is achieved, dear ones, that's when you start feeling you belong here. That all is well here. And that when those issues occur, as they always will in duality, you have perfect solution. You understand them. You know them. You can smile. This or something better. I'll get through this. I always do. Not all humanity will be alike. There will always be those coming in, learning. There will always be those above who have greater experience than you. There will always be issues to solve between you. And that's the point. Because solution will be far easier with coherence. As above, so below, as the large is the small. You take the issue of humanity and billions of souls working together. A relationship between the parts that has more coherence creates peace on earth. Relationship between the parts creates trade which makes sense. Politics which changes and wants to improve. Benevolence being the goal and the issue. Compassion being something that is understood as the gold between relationships and family. It's coming. You live in a black and white earth, a black and white reality, and color is coming. I said it before. It's not just in Israel. It's in the relationship between the parts of you and you. Do you know how much you're loved by you? Would you like the greatest lover on the planet? It's your soul and your consciousness. And that creates such comfort that you can go from place to place smiling with how good you feel and how happy you are with life, regardless of the spinning around you, regardless of the drama around you, regardless of low consciousness all over the media, because you know better, because you know a truth that has hidden for years. Doesn't see what's here. They see something new and they don't recognize it. They say, there's no humanity in 50 years. You won't make it. Not understanding, that's right. There won't be the kind of humanity that's here today. It will have graduated to a new level, even within 2 generations, 3, 4. You won't recognize it. The reader goes out and sees nothing they recognize, because it's better than it was. They've never seen it before. It doesn't compute. They don't see what they expect. And so they come back and they say, well, you didn't make it. Oh, yes, you did. You made it in such a way that they don't recognize a world at peace. They don't recognize a world that's starting to have confluence of quality. They don't recognize the things because they're not here yet. I say it again. Go back 50 years and ask the question, how is your Wi-Fi? And they'll say, we don't know what you mean. And they say, well, okay, well, Wi-Fi is generated from that which is your internet. How is your internet? And they'll say, we don't know what you mean. They'll say, oh, well, that's because, how is your computer? How fast is it? And they'll say, we don't know what you mean. That's 3 layers removed from their reality. And you're asking them about a Wi-Fi, and they have no idea what a computer is. Do you understand? In 50 years, you won't recognize it. It's not just the technology of machines. It is the high technology of consciousness that is on its way to changing this planet. So those right now who go out and take a look at it can't even see it because they don't know what a Wi-Fi is. 3 steps removed from what's coming. I hope this isn't too cryptic for you to understand. No one can see it if they've never had it. If it's never been experienced, you don't know what humanity looks like working at 44%. You just don't. You don't know what benevolence looks like if you've never had it. Can you imagine a planet that works together? Can you imagine a political system that isn't angry with each other? No. How's your Wi-Fi? It's coming in ways you don't expect. It's coming in channeled systems that you've never seen. It's coming in inventions that will change everything you do. That's what's in the future, unseeable by so many who are so proud of being able to go and see what they see. I give you this news so you'll have an understanding of perhaps what you'll hear even through channeling. Let the purity of this message not be lost. You have free will to accelerate it or slow it down. That is free will. There may be some obstacles you have to get through, humanity, but you will get through them because the ball is rolling. The snowball is rolling down the hill, and there's no trees in sight for it to hit. How fast it goes depends on the physics of gravity, which you can control with consciousness. That's a metaphor. That's all I'll say now. The relationship between the parts of you is the secret to peace within you, to peace within humanity, and an accelerated, graduating earth. Let it be. And so it is.
Hi, everybody. Thanks for watching this. I wanted to tell you this is a little time sensitive.